Okay, so some people have asked for a tutorial of this mod, so let's get started. First we have the network controller. It'll show us the energy usage, the buffer, and certain coordinates and a service ID that'll be useful for later. And then on the right we have everything that's connected to the network. It'll show the power usage of each item. Uh, As for the buffer, it'll hold up to 5 seconds of power. Uh, you can only have one network controller per network. If you try to add more than one, it'll mark it for deconstruction. You can only have one. Uh, this mod also includes 10 colored cables. Each of them won't connect to each other, which is really useful. They also come with their respective underground cables. The max length is 9 tiles, so the same as the uh, blue undergrounds. You can also weave them together. As for the storage drives of the item and fluid, each tier holds 4 more than the last. And if we open up one of them, we have the capacity. We have 5 filters. We also have the priority, which goes from 5 to -5. And we have whitelist and blacklist, the same for the fluid. So let's moving on to the item bus. We have the transfer speed. So by default, it's the speed of a yellow belt. We have 2 filters. We can do import and output. Priority is the same thing. And for the color, this is referring to the type of cable that's going to connect to. So right now it's red. If we change it to pink, it'll connect to pink, disconnect from the red. If we do light green, it'll connect to the light green, disconnect from the pink. Uh, if we want to output, let's say landfill, we can set that and it'll start outputting. If we do input, it's blacklist by default, so if we have a filter here, it'll input everything but the landfill. And then if we do whitelist, it'll only import that. Now the thing here, it says only modified, or it says to include modified items. So that's referring to anything with tags, labels, your blueprints, these construction planners, your blueprint books, and anything else. And these, if they're highlighted in purple, except the firearm magazines and the anything with durability in it, those are fine. But these will not insert into the inventory of the network unless you have a external bus. And speaking of the external bus, we have a couple of things here. We have 10 filters. Uh, we can choose the item and fluid types with different modes. Priority, same. Whitelist, blacklist, and modified items by default it's on, so it's pretty useful. If it's set to only modified items and it's on blacklist or whitelist, you just need to have the filters, but we'll leave it on blacklist for now. So if we open up the inventory, the interface, we can insert a wireless grid, we can insert all of these, and then we can put the fluid drives. Okay, we can take them out. And since it's only set to only accept modified items, it won't let us insert anything else. So that's good. Uh, if you mine an item drive, or any drive that has something in it, it'll save. You can place it back down, and you'll get the items back. For the fluid bus, we have pumping speed, so by default it's the same speed as the offshore pump. Set the filter, and do input, and it'll start importing the water into the tank. Set the filters here and it'll stop. But let's set it to blacklist. You can see it here, it starts increasing. And we can output water and it'll start decreasing and filling up this tank. So what you could do is if we have a assembling machine that's emptying a water barrel, it'll start taking the water, it'll extract the water and put it into the storage tank. And in the item bus, if we put this to set this off, we can move everything in here. So that's something you can do. So for the trains, this one's kind of weird because if we imagine that the train is 6 tiles long, only these middle two actually work. So the rest is just doesn't work. Only the middle third of the wagon actually does something. I don't know why, but that's just how the game is. So with this, I can just export coal into the wagon or into the locomotive and it'll get coal. I can do the same here. United input list and it's gone. I do this. So this is full. I put the coal back in. Now if I were to get in the locomotive and if I drive the train, you can see that the item bus will still try to put stuff into the wagon. So if you don't want that to happen, you don't want that to happen, the best way to fix that is to get a green wire and then hook it up to the train stop and then wire it to the input, the item buses. On the train stop, you want to set it to read stop the train, and it sends out a signal T. And then on the item bus, you can set the enable condition to when T is greater than 0. So when there's a train at the train stop, turn it on. Then we can copy and paste. So now if we set this to automatic, it'll start filling up the wagon. And if we move it out, it doesn't fill. So that's pretty good. It's a good way to stop the item buses and the fluid bus. Those do the same thing from filling up the wagon as it moves out. Uh, and you have the detector. This is going to be helpful if you want to limit there's a certain amount of items or fluids into your network. So if I use the wire, hook up the output to the input of the bus, then let's say if we have a wooden chest, and that's less than 800, then outputs a green signal. And then on the item bus, we can do if the green signal is greater than 0. So if we have less than 100 wooden chests, we start importing it. If we do a wooden chest, we can see that it starts increasing and it'll stop at 100. Right? You don't need to you do it this way. You can also do uh, set as a wooden chest input count, and then if we do greater than or equal to 0, this is basically going to output how many wooden chests is in the network. And then here we can just take the wooden chest. If it's less than 100, we can import the wooden chest directly into the network. You don't have to worry about like any signaling. You can also, if you don't want to have so much detectors around, you can just do this and then hook it up to a bunch of power poles, right? That way you can have it throughout the whole network. If we just connect it back, it will do the same thing and it'll stop at 100. Now, the last couple things will be the wireless transmitter. This is gonna have a base range of 96 tiles left to right. We can also show the area, and then by default it's this pinkish color, and it stops right here. So it's pretty wide. And you can also research uh, larger ranges, larger transfer bonuses, and all that. We turn it off, and if we use this, combine it with the portable wireless grid, we'll be able to access the inventory of the network from a distance from within this range of the transmitter. Now, right now we don't see anything in the inventory, even though it has stuff in it. That's because it's not linked to a controller. So this takes a position of X, Y, and the surface of the controller. So right here, we have 12.5 as X, 7.5 as Y, and surface ID is 1. So we do 12.5 and then 7.5 and 1. It'll show us everything in the network. We can also pick it up and it'll save that. So we can go all the way over here and it'll show up. Basically, it'll act like a normal uh, network inventory, network interface, just at a longer distance. Some electronic circuits, put it back in, and take the concrete, put it back in, concrete, and then you can just manually put it in there, and it'll show up the same. Right here, we have connected players, so if you type in a player name like my own, and click the check mark, it'll add. We can also remove it. But if we add that, and then we have a player port in your equipment grid, feed it some power. It also says that for every item that's being transferred, it'll consume 100 joules. So if we say, let's see how, let's say if I wanted 100 electronic circuits, right? We can do that, set it to 200, and nothing happened. That's because there's a toggle right here. If we turn it on, we will get electronic circuit. And this is within the range of the transmitter. And if I wanted to increase that, we can do 600, it will have it. We do 0, and it's all gone. Uh, it'll also work in your trash slots, so we can dump that. It'll go directly into your transport belt. Turn it off, and then we have the network transmitter and receiver. So the transmitter will transmit the network over a long distance, and the receiver will receive that. It'll expose anything that's connected to the receiver. And the receiver will have the coordinates as well. The network transmitter will take that. So we have 26 for X, 8 for Y, surface ID is 1. So we type in 26, 8, and 1. If we go here, we can see that we have 737 refined concrete over that side. We can check the inventory and it'll show up. Uh, Also, if we mark a cable for deconstruction, it'll cut everything off. We can unmark it and it'll show back. We also have storage capacity here. It'll show you how filled everything is. So that's pretty useful. What else? I think that's it. Uh, there are a couple bugs here and there, like we just found some right now. Uh, I can easily fix that in the next update. But if you do find any other bugs, feel free to leave a discussion post in the mod page, and I'll have that link in the description below. So I hope that covers everything. If you have more questions, you can also put it in the discussion post, and I'll try to get back. And yeah, that's all.